It doesn't necessarily mean that you did anything incorrectly. We just want to find out, you know,
How I got there.
why
Yeah.
it was difficult or why it looked like you might have been
Okay.
a little confused. It's really the, you know, it's not you. We're not testing you. We're testing the design.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people are confused by something, it's usually it's the product. It's not the person.
Right, right.
Right. It's not user error.
Okay.
It's a use error possibly, but it's because of the design of the system.
Sure.
Um, and then of course the outputs from our testing will be help to drive changes in the design and make them better, improve the designs.
Okay.
We do have a camera on, if you're
Mhm.
okay with that. It's just for internal use.
Sure.
Faye from Foster City is watching in on this session, but yeah, anything we record is just for in case we didn't take good notes or something. We can go back and
Okay.
double check. Any questions before we get started?
No, that seems good so far.
Okay. So just before we go into the first scenario, I'm just going to go over some more information about the system and about the workflows
Okay.
for the system. You may or may not know them already, but there's a 2448 sample workflow,
Yep.
which is one deck setup, and a couple of interactions during the workflow
Okay.
until they get to qPCR, and then the pools or libraries are pipetted by the robot into the reagent cartridge for the NextSeq DX.
Oh,
So
okay.
they end up getting
It goes right into the cartridge.
goes right into the cartridge.
Cool.
So imagine that there's a position
A
for some
holder
of those
for
things.
a cartridge.
This deck doesn't exactly represent the same deck
Okay.
that's
And so
here.
the deck
They're
layout
pretty
is significantly
close.
different than the current 48. The 48 solutions deck layout.
This is accurate.
Okay.
This is accurate. This won't necessarily be
Oh,
exactly
yeah.
like
No,
this.
just thinking this, there's changes in.
This should be
I was
good.
trained on the 48 solutions
Okay.
currently existing assay. So there's just some.
For the Bridget assay, or do you mean?
Yes, I believe
Bridget
Bridget
assay.
is what
Okay.
it was called. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
I haven't ever played with it in the
Yeah,
wild.
this will be.
though,
This
so.
should be different. I
Yeah.
think.
Okay. Yeah.
And then there's also a 96 sample workflow, which includes 4 deck setups. So you have an initial deck setup. Reagents and everything, labware and stuff are put on the deck. You hit go, the robot does its thing, pauses. You got to do some interactions, reset it up, more reagents, etc. Get the robot going again. And so you have to do that 4 times to get all the way to the end of the process.
Right.
We're going to focus on just the first 2
Okay.
parts of that workflow. So just a heads up for that. We have the touch screen, we have the deck, we have some equipment here, carriers, we have some tips here. You don't have enough tips also for some of the scenarios we're going to be working through, so just imagine that you have them here. These are kind of mixed up in here, but we do have a couple of 300s. I believe these are thousands and a 50 and another 1,000. So just use those as
required.
What we have right
Okay.
now is required through the scenarios. And then we have these this labware
Okay.
over here also. Okay. Alrighty. Yeah. Got it. Excuse me. So,
Excuse me.
if you don't have any other questions,
No, I'm
thoughts, questions?
curious to see how this will go. Yeah.
Okay. So for the first scenario, I'm going to have you read those instructions there out loud.
Okay, scenario 1 instructions. You are setting up the system for running the 96 sample workflow. Using the equipment and materials available to you, please follow the instructions on the screen to complete the scenario. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So this is my short one. Going 4 to 9. Do I have an? There we go.
Yeah, you could just go that far is good enough.
Okay. Yeah.
That's fine.
18 to 23 for this guy. We are putting a tube holder in 17.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, no, it tips, right? Okay. So in that case, I put a plate carrier on instead of the tip carrier because they just look the same on the screen, and then realized that it was a tip holder because of the 1000 that was in there. Those are the 300s. What am I looking for? There we go. P1000 tips in there. Oops, sorry. And then 42 to 47. 5, 6, 7, okay. And then 1, 3, and 50. Okay. Thousands. The back. Those are the things. No. Okay. So everything there seems pretty straightforward for carrier loading. Deep well plates, so labware. Are these color-coded labels going to be things that are going to be on labwares or supplied in a kit to put on labware, or are we supplying plates with?
With it already
Oh, cool.
on. Mm-hmm.
That's nice. Okay. Where am I looking? There you are. Resuspension buffer. Okay. And tips on. Okay. And then in this case, for the tube carrier, it's indicating 2 tubes there that would be for positive controls. It tells you where to put them. That's nice. Okay. So at that point, I think the deck is loaded appropriately.
Okay. And so you said that where they go is, it tells you where they go, so where do they go? You just vocalize
tubes
that
6 and 12.
Okay, great,
Fine.
thanks. Just because we don't have a physical place for you to do it, so
Gotcha.
just to double check. Okay.
Yes, in 6 and 12.
Got it.
If I double check everything, I think that, oh, no, that's wrong, Adri. We're just gonna, so I had the deep well plate put in the wrong spot on there. 4 or 5, or, okay, yep.
Any thoughts
So
on why you think that happened?
no, because it's clear from the image that it should be on the front of the carrier. I just didn't look properly.
Working
I
quickly,
think, yeah.
or?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe just
Yeah.
working too quickly, but
Okay.
now everything else looks like it is where it should be.
Anything that, so you think that the representation is fine there? There's nothing that would be changed, need to be changed
No,
or anything?
no.
Okay.
I think the only thing that I noticed that would be, the only thing that I noticed off the bat was that all the carriers look the same regardless of their carrier type, and I was only telling them apart by what was loaded on them.
Got it.
So I don't know if a visual difference in terms of tip carrier versus plate carrier would be useful or not, but
Gotcha.
if you're taking your time to double check your setup before you hit load, then you should find those
Okay.
issues anyways, like I did with the plate.
Got it. Yeah, I captured that earlier when you said that. Caught
Okay.
that. And then you were about to do something, and I stopped you, and I asked you about. I said something about the tube carriers. Your very final move was going to be something else that you didn't get to do yet.
What didn't I get to do yet?
You actually were going to do it. You were about to do it.
Now
and-
I've totally
and I don't
forgotten
remember
what it
if
was.
I interrupted or if it was something
Okay.
else, but
Um,
I kind of thought I interrupted at that time. But
No, but I mean, so
so you said, yeah, you.
if we had the tube carrier here, we would be loading the positive controls in 6 and 12, and we would be loading all of the other samples. Well, so
No,
it
no,
said we're doing,
We're good.
Okay.
You just went like that.
oh, okay. Oh,
right.
yeah.
You remember you
Button
said
pushing.
you were, yeah. You were said,
I
oh,
would
and then I
load.
would go.
Yeah. Okay,
Either
cool.
I interrupted you or something
Oh, no
in
worries.
between happened. So, okay. Jessica, do you have any questions before I go on? Okay.
Actually, before you to proceed to the next screen, which button on the screen would you click on?
The load carriers button. Yes.
Um, was there anything in the scenario you just experienced that was confusing or difficult to perform?
Not particularly. No.
You talked
I
about
think,
something.
yeah, the two things that I noticed were the type of carrier, right, and making sure that I loaded the right type of carrier, and the location of the plate in terms of the front or the back of the carrier.
Okay.
Those were both things I was able to catch myself on
Okay.
visually.
How are you familiar, or what's your experience with representation of plate position in other programs, or from your experience? Is there something else you would expect to know on carrier position?
No, I don't think I was expecting anything else. I think that was simply just a moment of brain lapse as
Okay.
opposed to anything else. I knew it was on an end, but I
Okay.
just needed to look again.
Okay. Now we need to get your assessment of your satisfaction with the system and the current design for performing the task that you just completed. And so would you say you're 1 completely unsatisfied, or somewhere in between, up to 7 for completely satisfied?
I think I would say satisfied.
Satisfied.
6, yeah.
Okay. And then for ease of use, which means how easy or difficult it is to accomplish the task, 1 being very difficult to 7 being very easy, how would you?
I would say 7, very easy.
7,
Yeah.
okay. And what are your overall thoughts about loading the carriers, as far as, the designs that we have here, or anything physical about it too?
I really like the idea that the plates, the labware is going to come marked.
Okay.
I think that's incredibly convenient. If they are coming marked by type, are they coming with the barcodes already affixed as well?
Yes.
So my one concern on that one sort of puts people in a situation where if something goes wrong with the plate, they can't swap it out for another one or anything, but in the context that people are using this, they wouldn't be using it like that anyways, right? You're not deviating from a workflow when you're using this in a DX environment. So I guess that's not as relevant.
I do think, to your point, they probably would have potentially need for backups.
Right, it's something
Possibly.
they probably would plan ahead to have some kits for backups.
Yeah.
How easy
So they
is
would
it
just have to buy one.
so if they
with
have
that
another 2 kits behind their hand to
something
open
like
up and
that.
dip into, in terms of the software, is it easy to go in and scan in another barcode from a different kit? Or are the barcodes kitted together, and does that cause a problem if you need to pull a plate out of another kit?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if somehow when it's scanning it has problems. I don't know all those.
Okay.
We're going to end up testing that
Yeah.
stuff, so yeah, I unfortunately don't know.
Okay.
The,
I guess that would be
so-called
I
delivery.
love having all of the plates labeled, but in the event that something falls on the floor or is dirty and can't be used, or beforehand, making sure you can swap something in would be important.
Okay.
Yeah. I like the touchscreen interface a lot. I think all of the information that I want is there, both in terms of graphically and labeling, listing out the components with words, to make sure that I actually know what I'm connecting. That is really good.
Okay.
Yeah. This is a much cleaner interface than the one that's currently on the software for the 48 assay, so I like it a lot better.
Alrighty. What do you think about the size of the labels on the labware?
So in terms of the size of the labels, I guess I would just wonder what this choice was for, to give space for manual labeling in case you are not doing all 4 steps in the workflow in one day. Are there situations where people would... Is this assay designed with safe stopping points, you know?
Actually, it's not.
I figured
the
that would be
intent
the
is
case, but
to
yeah,
go through
to
the
go
whole-
straight through.
Yeah.
So then I'm
From
not...
my understanding.
Right.
At this point.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's going to be a clinical assay, you're not waiting till tomorrow to finish the rest of it. I like the idea that there is a place where you could, you know, write down a lot or a experiment number on each of the individual plates. In terms of size of placement, I think this, on the shorter plates they need to be scaled down a little bit, but on the larger plates they're fine.
Did you say you would expect to have a place to write experimental information?
It would be nice.
It would be nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just if you pre-labeled everything with the date and the
Got it.
experiment name, it's always nice to do. Or whatever your LIMS trial needs to be. The colors are good so far. The font seems good and clear. Yeah. No, I think that's good.
Okay.
I'm assuming it's going to be something that's slightly plasticky or fully affixed. So that's that.
Yeah. Yeah. That was Jessica and myself and others.
I am not
Printing
maligning
stuff
your
up.
efforts whatsoever.
No, not at all. No offense taken whatsoever. Would you expect the name of the plate or the reagent to be on these labels also, or somewhere on that labware, similar to
As opposed to just the code,
similar
you
to
mean?
what's listed here? Yeah.
I don't
D12
know that it
phase.
needs to be, actually.
Okay.
For me, I'm not sure if that just might be having them here, and here, right? Being able to follow back like real world graphic name, I think is easier for me than actually checking words versus words. Like it's faster.
Mhm.
And I'm less likely to switch something in my head. So yeah, I wouldn't feel the need to have, I don't expect to see the full name of the plate
Okay.
on the plate.
So considering that there's the user guide, there's probably a work instruction that a lab would have, with a lot of details about preparation of the reagents, vortexing,
Yep.
thawing, and all that other stuff that they do. Would you expect any of that information to be in screens here? Considering that you're kind of you're starting, from what I understand, when you start in here, I don't know if this is right, but I don't know, maybe you can give me some feedback, but once you start into this workflow, you're ready to put samples on, would you think that they would be already ready to go with that stuff before coming up to start working with
Yeah.
this? Because this is
Yep.
like starting to eject
Exactly.
carriers and stuff like that, and telling
Yep.
you to put stuff on. That's when you start interacting with the Hamilton.
Right. I think beforehand you would be at the bench and you would be, filling any reagent reservoirs or prepping any reagents that happened at the bench. And by the time you get over here, you have everything just ready to load.
Is that
So,
typically how it's done?
yeah, I
pretty
mean
much?
that's how I've seen it done at least.
Okay.
And I think because you end up having multiple boxes for the assay itself, or lots of different components. Those are
Right.
probably going to want to be arrayed somewhere on a table.
Mhm.
So you would do preparation and then loading as the thing right before you. Like once you hit load carriers, you're sort of off to the races. So I don't know if you need to have the reagent preparation instructions on this interface. That's,
Okay.
yeah.
And when you say you don't know, does that mean
I think I actually prefer to not have them here.
Not have it. Okay.
I think I prefer to assume or understand that there is, you know, you're working off an SOP at your benchtop with your components there.
Okay.
It could sort of muddy the waters over here,
Okay.
you know.
Considering that some of these, the reagents will be pre-filled and covered with a foil seal.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they'll come with a foil seal on them.
There's even less to do then. You're not actually pipetting anything and you're not.
No.
Okay.
I think the only thing they have to do for a setup is load the ethanol into a reservoir.
It's so easy. Okay,
Everything
cool.
else is pretty much either an empty
Yep.
consumable or it's pre-filled with foil on top.
Yeah, you definitely don't. So, I mean, anything that you would be doing in terms of thawing or vortexing or anything like that, you could definitely do over
Okay.
at a bench by a centrifuge, by a vortex, and then load. Yeah, that's super easy.
Okay. Would it be good to have sort of an alert that says double check to make sure you remove all the foil from the plates and lab?
Yes, if it's not a
before
pierceable
hitting
foil,
go?
yeah, having a small, I mean, even if you hit load carriers and then a window comes up that says, "Have you removed all the foil? Is everything thawed?" can be a useful.
Oh, okay.
You
Okay.
know?
Yeah, that's kind of what we were thinking is
Yeah.
like right before they hit their load at the end of that setup, at the very end of the setup.
Yep.
Just like a pop-up that said,
Yeah.
"Have you taken the foil off?" And maybe a note in there also, thawed, all
Thawed,
reagents
mixed,
thawed,
whatever
mixed.
is, yeah,
Yeah.
the
and
couple of
spun
verbs
down or
that need to
whatever.
go in there. Yeah,
That'd be okay.
yeah. I think
Yeah.
that would be great, and it's something
Okay.
that once you've been doing it, you can always click through really quickly and not pay attention to when you know you've done it. But
Okay.
I always like a last-minute warning. I mean, how badly would that foil crash a Hamilton? Would they be able to pierce, or is it something that would really jack up your alignment?
A discussion we had the other day, they seemed to think it was pretty safe, but you would still not want to continue on if it did happen,
Yeah,
right? You would want to go in and...
definite alert then.
But at
yeah.
that point, you can't go back, and
Right.
so your reagents are already marked as being used. And so if you abort from that point, you lose everything.
Do you lose the entire kit, or would you lose, in this case, these consumables? Like for this step? Would the other consumables for the other 3 steps still be in play?
Yeah, I think just for that
Okay.
step is where it would
Okay.
probably be.
Then again,
I'm
that's,
not
just
positive,
the
but I would
subbing
imagine.
in the new reagents. Can you just pull these from a partial kit or something?
Yeah,
I wonder,
yeah.
I mean, would clinical labs even work that way, though, if they were going to have partial kits around? That's a question I don't know the answer to, but
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. And what are your overall thoughts on the designs of the screen?
They are positive. Yes, I like it. I have to admit, I also like that it's sort of visually consistent with the sequencer interfaces as well, right? Like it looks like we made it, as opposed to the other one.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the places that I would interact with this all look very straightforward. So, you know, I can abort or I can load. It tells me what I'm doing, for which kind of workflow I'm running. This is good. And so here, the only 2 options that I would have would be abort and load. What's that one do? The 8 dots up in the corner, is it just an icon or is it a button?
Okay, that's a good question. What do you think it is?
Well, I would push it to find out, but
Okay. And nothing would happen.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
okay. So
yeah.
it's an icon.
It's an icon.
Okay.
It is an icon.
I think I guess anything up in a corner like that, I start poking at to see what it does. But
Okay.
Okay.
Is that something we could do to make that better? You can think of?
I don't know. I mean, you want some. I can see how visually you sort of want something there and something to demarcate where the workflow is displayed. I don't know if it hurts anything. I just might be inclined to push buttons. That's
Okay.
all. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Jessica, do you have any other questions about anything? No? Okay. And then go ahead and move on to number 2.
Okay.
And so for number 2, let me just move this. So prior to us getting to this point, there would have already been blood tubes loaded.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, we just, as I had mentioned, we don't have the tube carriers
Mm-hmm.
or any of that. Otherwise, we would have had them loaded, and they would kind of be in this area.
Yep.
And so, just kind of keep that in mind as you get to the next screen.
Okay.
Okay. Oops, too far.
Okay.
And so, this is what you would see, but let's give you the
So
instruction.
this is- Okay.
Yep, this is the instruction for scenario 2. If you could read that out loud, and then.
Scenario 2
forward.
instructions. The first part of the workflow is complete. Follow the prompts on the screen to complete the scenario. Okay. So, please perform actions in the list below and press next. Okay. Okay, so it will auto abort if we don't get to it in time. Sorry.
Correct.
Now
No
I'm
problem.
poking things.
I'll do that.
Sorry.
over here. No problem.
That's cool.
Correct.
Okay, so
Is that okay?
yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
that's great that it warns you so clearly. I'm always worried about people who walk away between steps and go for lunch. Okay, so the first step is then to deal with the deep well plate. So we are going to centrifuge it and return. You said everything is still in at this point. Does it unload the carriers automatically at the end of the? Okay, so
Yes.
we're out here again then. So centrifuge and return. We would want to seal it first, and I wonder if indicating that specifically somewhere might be useful. Most people, I'm sure, would definitely seal it before they put it in a centrifuge, but
Okay.
you never know.
Let's put a note for that.
Centrifuge and return. So returned. Pulling the sample tube rack, we're going to take out the.
What you said about the sealing of the centrifuge, please?
Oh, just if there was a prompt in there to seal the plate before centrifuging,
Oh,
could be useful. Right. So sample tube rack. Oh, right, because we're doing 96, so we'd have 4 sample tube racks. Pull them all out, so any remainder that's in there in terms of the plasma tubes themselves can be moved to storage. That's nice. Pulling those positive controls out of 6 and 12, positions 6 and 12 as well to discard. The positive controls come with the assay? Are we sending something along with, or are there?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't seen that as a.
People really want them, but I don't know about what makes a good positive control for this at this point.
Okay.
But yeah, so discard those guys. And then we are going to pull out our 1,000 tips here. And we're going to keep the tips in the counted tip rack at the end. Okay. That's nice.
and then did you say anything about like the sample tube stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah,
no worries. I got
we'll,
it.
we'll,
I
we'll
got
pull them
that.
out and just move back to storage.
Yep.
Are
Yeah.
you also putting these in storage?
The
Let's-
two, no, the 2 positives you're going to discard.
Oh.
Yeah. I have to say, I really do like the remove versus keep on there. I think that's clear. And even if I was actually taking things to storage, I feel like 16 minutes is a perfectly acceptable amount of time to get that done in. I would want to make sure I wasn't digging in the freezer right now, so that's probably something I would think about while this protocol was running, this first part. But
I think you have like a total of 30 minutes to centrifuge, clean up, and.
great, yeah.
for the next one.
What? So on this one, do you know what the centrifuge time is? It's
Is
just
it
the
10?
10 minutes with
Oh,
no break, so it takes like almost 30 minutes to
Is the break time that they have
Included in
before they
there?
have to move on to the next step? Do you know how long that is?
I do not.
Okay.
Okay. I thought I heard 30 minutes somewhere. I've heard 20 and I've heard 30, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure which
I
one
just
it
know
is.
it's spinning for 10,
Is it?
Okay.
but when you need to be there to take it off, put it back on.
Okay.
With the, yeah, I'm trying to remember. Well, that might have actually just been the tubes. Yeah. I was going to say with the 48 solutions, I remember there was those spins that were only for 10 minutes, but they really take forever because the centrifuge, you have to turn the brake off to slow it down. So, but at that point, you should be in a plate and not in the tube. So that would be okay.
Question about the centrifuge. Are there centrifuge parameters? And if there are, would you like to see them on the screen?
Like
there
are
are.
there temperature?
There are,
Are there
at least-
parameters?
Yeah, it's how you need to spin that.
yeah.
Okay. Would that be good to have there?
Yeah, I think that kind of information. So I like that the time is there, right? That is pretty essential and reminds me of what I'm doing, which step I'm on, kind of thing. But I feel like the specific parameters for different kinds of spins I would have in the SOP at the bench with my boxes and things, or I would have already programmed in a centrifuge. So I don't know if that information needs to be on the screen itself.
And what's the SOP stand for?
It's just
Oh,
Standard
yeah.
operating procedure.
Mhm.
It's like the work instruction. Same thing.
Right, yeah. Okay.
And I'm not
Yeah.
sure if you completed this, but how would you get to the next screen?
I would hit that next button.
Any other questions, Jessica?
Yeah. Do you have an opinion about how keep and remove are both the same black colors?
Oh. I think I actually like it. I don't want extra colors on there that are going to interfere with how I think about the color coding for the plates. Also, anything, if it was just red-green for keep or return, I kind of think that makes people a little bit lazy, to be honest. So I don't mind having to actually look at what that says and follow through appropriately. But yeah, I mean, if we're color coding consumables, I only want the colors on the graphic to be about consumables.
What do you think about black? It all being black, is that okay?
Yeah, I think the contrast is enough, right?
Black's
So
fine.
there's hypothetical pale gray, what is actually there, medium gray, and then things you're interacting with being dark gray or black, I think is
Okay.
good.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
What are your thoughts on that item description? I think it's called item. Yeah.
Here,
Yes.
um,
Color description.
I really, really like having those there. I think that's pretty essential. And all the ones that I've seen so far have been appropriately descriptive. I know what they mean. So yeah.
What do you think, like the first one, the default putting the number 5 in front of that, what do you think that means?
So I know it means which position on the carrier. And I hope after someone is trained on this, they will know that too. But yeah, no, you're right. If you were just looking at this in and of itself, you might wonder what the heck the 5 was for. I don't feel like I want a whole position column on there though, like especially with a graphical. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly how I feel about having it there or if it's particularly necessary. Especially since there's only 3 in that actual carrier there. That would just be confusing. So.
How about for this one that has 5? Do you think?
This one I
Do you
like
think
the
that the
numbers
visual
for.
is enough?
Keep doing it.
It's okay. Do you think that the visual is enough? That you don't need that number if you have?
I definitely would want the number for that rack as well because counting the
Oh, you
little
would.
dots
Okay.
is too. But So tube 6,
So for the tubes, definitely. What do you think for the plate carrier stuff? Like, so this has 5 positions.
Right.
Is that necessary? Do you think?
I think with the tubes, because there are more of them and it's visually harder to discern, I like having those there. It's also called tube 6, so I know exactly what that number refers to and why it's there.
Oh,
With the
okay.
deep well plate, it's just a 5.
Okay.
I probably would guess that it meant position, even if I hadn't been told, but
Okay.
also I'm not sure why I wouldn't start counting from the front. So,
What if that said plate 5?
things were like plate 5, deep well plate, position 1. I think I would rather have it say
It seems a lot
position,
wordy.
you know, position 5 deep well plate or position 1
Okay.
tip adapter, if it was going to be there. Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. Kind of getting back to the scenario and performing the scenario. Was there anything that you experienced that was confusing or difficult to perform while running the scenario?
No, this one I think seemed pretty straightforward. Yep.
Okay. There's you're considering the sequence of centrifuging and returning the plate for this one here.
Okay.
Currently it says centrifuge and return, right?
Yep.
Do you think it would be better just to say centrifuge and then when you get to the next screen, return? Or
So what's on the next screen? So,
so the next
is the next screen the
will be
setup for the
loading.
next stage?
Yeah, it'll be loading. So we'll do that in a bit.
I like centrifuge and return just as a reminder that it needs to go there. And where I would put a reminder to seal the plate on here, on the next one I would put a reminder to unseal the plate. And make sure you take off whatever you've put on there.
Okay.
But I do like having centrifuge and return there.
Okay.
I think it just reinforces that like this is the material we're going forward with and the rest is reagent or equipment that we'll be changing between stages.
Okay. And then, can you tell me a little bit about this? What are your thoughts on this?
I very much like having it there. I also like the fact that it's green because it's a little less stressful. But yeah, it's long enough to do a reasonable amount of work that you shouldn't feel too stressed. I think it's definitely something that will cause some people to freak out a little bit, but it's important that it's there.
Oh, okay.
I mean, does it do anything aggressive when you get down to like 2 minutes it starts flashing or something? I mean,
I believe it will change color.
change color a little bit if you're
I'm not sure about
past
the
a certain yellow
the
zone
the
or
flashing part. I don't know if we talked about. I don't think we talked about any flashing, right? Oh,
mean,
there's
flashing might
there's
be
no animation
overly-
other than I think the progress.
okay.
There are no other animation.
Okay.
So it's going to change.
But it will
color,
change color,
from
so
what
you
I understand. Yeah.
get a little extra reminder.
I think it'll turn red as it gets close
Okay.
to the end.
But what do you think about the fact that if you don't make it in time, then this entire run will be aborted, and then everything will be canceled in order
Yep.
reasons that you missed it? You opinion on that?
I think for the scenario this assay is going to get used in, that's totally important and needs to be there. I think it really makes me want to try and figure out how I can salvage things, but that's my brain and not how it will be used. So,
What are your overall thoughts about unloading the consumables and yeah, just kind of in general through this whole setup? or scenario? Tubes, tube racks.
Yeah, no, everything
Tip rack.
seems. In terms of actually interacting with the Hamilton, everything seems really clearly explained. I think I would want to make sure I had whatever I was storing those remainder samples in ready to go. But yeah, there's nothing I find confusing about the unloading process there.
Would it be preferred to you that since you're not interacting with this carrier and this carrier, that these carriers never came out and would be in, right?
Right.
And that one would be in, and they wouldn't even show up on the screen? Would that be a preferred way to do it? Or the way it is? Where they pop out and then they just go back in after you
Right.
don't do anything with them?
I think to be honest, I like them all coming out so that I have to go through a full mental checklist of what needs to happen on the deck as a whole. I mean, practically speaking, it may be more useful to have things you don't have to touch, not be in a place where you could touch them. So that may be a realistic, good option. But yeah, I mean, I think I like checking through things myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, did you have any other questions, Jessica?
Did we also do rating and ease of use scale already?
Just about to do that.
Oh, okay,
just now.
got it.
But yeah, just wanted to check before.
Mm-hmm.
No? Okay. So as far as satisfaction goes, your level of satisfaction with the current design for accomplishing the task that you just performed, 1 completely unsatisfied to 7 completely.
7, I think, for that one. I'm completely
Okay.
satisfied with this step. That seems.
Okay. And then for ease of use, none
Also
being
7.
very difficult.
Yep.
Very easy. Okay.
Very easy.
Great. Ready? Still good, Jessica? Any other
Yes.
thoughts? Okay. And we will move on to scenario number 3, or last scenario that we have.
Okie doke. Let's see. Scenario 3 instructions. You will now be setting up for the second part of the 96 sample workflow. Using the equipment and materials available to you, please follow the instructions on the screen to complete the scenario. All right. Instructions on the screen. So we have this guy.
Yeah, we'll put that back out. That was actually
These
supposed to be
two.
out.
Okay. And then we will need to get, so 10 is empty, and then our other carrier for plates is going to go in 11 to 16. I like this new carrier thing. Add an extra one. That is a good thing. Tips, imaginary tip carriers. These ones I kept. 1, 2, 3, right? Yes. Good. Okay. So imaginary tip carriers. Everybody's out. I'm deciding that I actually do want everything to come out together, even if you're not touching it.
Okay.
I think anything that doesn't make people think for even a moment that they should be manually altering where the carriers go without being told is good.
Okay.
Right? I don't want anyone to think, oh, maybe that one should have come out and then pull it out and then have the
Okay.
Hamilton have problems when it tries to go back in. So I like everything coming out and
Got
going
it.
in together.
Got it.
Okay, let's see. Get some plates. So, wait a minute. Ah, I'm over too far one. 1 second. Forgot I still had a tube rack in there that I need to pay attention to. Tube rack still in there. Yeah. Okay. No, I put it in the wrong place again. Okay. 17. Tube rack there. Okay.
Good.
Cool.
And also, just to clarify, you want all the carriers to be out because some people might manually try to pull them out.
I feel like it's just cleaner to have everything come out and check, and then have everything go back in and check. Now, those two are different DRs. Are we going
Yeah,
just going
imagine-
with it for now?
Imagine they're the same.
Okay,
Imagine they're identical, physically identical.
I can do that.
We ran out of
Yes.
stuff.
Okay, so I don't need you guys for now. Okay. This is our DW that we can keep from before. I like that I can see the DW underneath, so I remember what I'm supposed to be looking at there. Okay, so this is where I absolutely 100% want labels for things, right? So I don't know if in the protocol the same things are going into these two deep well plates, but especially if this one's coming on and off. I mean, I know they're barcoded, but for my using with eyes, I like having the place I can write so I know what I put in these different ones.
You wouldn't have to.
We wouldn't have to? Okay.
Only thing that you have to put.
Oh, right,
at all,
everything's pre-filled.
ethanol.
Okay,
Everything's
cool.
pre-filled.
I forget.
Yep, you just need
That
ethanol.
makes life really easy.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah.
You just put
that's-
empty.
Yeah.
It would just be empty
So
plates.
those are just
and
empty
the, and
plates.
the robot handles everything.
So you just know, like, this is our one from the previous step, so this one has plasma in it, right? At this
that
point?
has plasma. You're right.
Yeah, okay. But you don't put anything in here, and there's nothing about
No.
a DW that I need to keep track in my head.
Correct.
It's just plasma, nothing.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Got this one. BB, W1, W2. So wash 1 and wash 2, I'm assuming? Yes, good. Binding buffer, good. Ethanol.
And then we can't scroll down, but there would be more
Right,
information.
so I
for
can
the-
double check
for the other stuff.
the things that I need.
Yeah.
RB, wash buffer 2, more ethanol. Okay. So those guys, I have these tubes in here. What now? We can't scroll down, but what's in these tubes at this point? Because that tube rack is. We got rid of the.
Yes.
Can I flip
Oh,
back for a sec?
It is there still, actually. That's
So
it.
17, but different things are in it.
Right. It is on the screen. It's currently on the current screen.
Oh,
Here.
extraction B tube. Okay, cool. 17. That part number there, what does that refer to? The part number for the carrier itself?
What do you think?
I would assume it refers to the part number for the carrier.
Okay.
If I needed to order another carrier, I'm not sure what I feel about having it there. I don't know.
You are correct. It's the part number for the carrier.
Okay. I think it mostly just makes me wonder what I should be doing with that information at this moment, because I'm not going to be ordering a carrier while I am in front of the thing.
Okay.
I guess it is because there are different types of carriers you would be putting in there, so you would want to make sure
Right.
if it was the right one.
Yeah. The next step in the workflow actually uses different carriers.
Yeah. So these ones I can see the part number there, so if I wanted to check it, I could.
And so imagine that those weren't there.
Okay.
There's actually somewhere else that has the part number.
I mean, there is a barcode on them, right? But,
There's a barcode.
uh-huh.
That's correct. I'll just give you a peek.
Yes, please. Oh, hey, cool. Okay.
Is that okay? Is that good, bad? Considering that
I don't know. I
different-
didn't even notice it until scenario
there are
3,
three
so.
different types. I think a part of, ideally, what we would have done, and I think we'll do it next time, is thrown in another type of carrier.
Okay.
the
Just
different
so
part
you'd
number
have to
on it.
check it before. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that
I was just going on visually distinguishing between these
yeah,
two.
that helped. But there would be two other type, or
Okay.
one other type,
Okay.
two of them
Yep.
that are required
Yep.
for the second half,
Okay.
the second two steps
Mhm.
setups, deck setups. And so that's the idea, so that they know which one to
Okay.
actually use for which part of the workflow.
Yep.
Just as a reminder.
Okay. Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, I guess that is. I mean, as long as it's someplace clear.
yeah, so we were,
Maybe if I had
We had
3, I
mocked
would
out.
be checking more, and looking
Okay.
for it. If there were different or more than 2 different kinds.
okay.
I just assumed I could tell them apart this way, and so I didn't even look at the numbers. But
Yeah, yeah, no, I think that because of our setup, it kind of helped you just grab the right one because we didn't have any of the wrong ones
Right.
here.
And so since there are potentially wrong ones, right? Section or protocol 1 does not use carriers that are in these later protocols. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, having those labeled on the front somewhere, I don't know, somewhere more visible might be helpful, but
Would you prefer there
mhm.
or something like
Here, somewhere where I can see it when it's loaded. So something that I can double check as part of a final check before I hit next or load, right?
Okay.
So when plates are on there, I would prefer to have it here.
Yes, I guess I should have muted my microphone.
No worries. Okay, so my tube carrier is in the same place as before for the second stage. And I can see I'm going to put my extraction bead tubes in there, so yes. Do. Tip carrier, I would fill those with 1000s. Tip carrier, I'd put 300s in there. And then these are my guys from before. Okay. Okay. Then I feel that that's checked and loaded. Yeah.
So you were able to get all this stuff taken care of? I'm sorry,
Oh, no worries. No. I was just loading tips, hypothetical tips with my mind.
How do you proceed to the next screen?
Load carriers.
Which step in the progress bar are you on right now?
In terms of the progress bar up here,
Yes.
so I've completed the first. I have done my centrifugation. I like that centrifugation step is listed there, but I think that's nice. And so I'm loading for my CFDNA extraction. This might be a point where an interim color might be useful, right? Telling you what you are currently looking at as opposed to, you know. Does the progress bar light up when the protocol's actually running? Like when does it turn blue? Does it turn blue when it's completed, or does it turn blue when you hit load carriers, or?
No, that's a very good question.
Okay.
Currently,
Yeah, it kind of progresses as the robot works through.
yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, so it's
Yeah, so as it gets closer,
it's an actual progress bar.
Yeah, and you'll see a timer
Okay.
in the middle,
Mhm.
like a timer to the next touch point.
Right.
That'll show up, so this will go
Okay.
away.
Yep. Okay.
And then the progress bar will move, and I think
Mhm.
you have a timer somewhere in here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's the whole screen actually.
Yeah,
Becomes timer.
that makes sense.
Okay, was there anything in the scenario you just experienced that was confusing or difficult to perform?
I think just remembering where I was supposed to put my imaginary tube rack. And that's just one of those things where sort of
Yeah.
the mental check of going line by
Yeah.
line across is where you find that.
And there actually would have been a physical carrier there and not
Right.
just air there,
Yeah.
so.
I wouldn't have been able to put the other
Yeah,
one
I
in
wouldn't even been
because
able to put
that's
it
in the
in,
same
yeah.
place. So I wouldn't have made
Yeah.
that. Yeah. That wouldn't have been confusing if I had an actual physical. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
What do you think about this batch information section?
I like having that there, definitely. Yeah, I think I like having that there just not only for information's sake, but anyone else who walks by can know who they need to contact if something's going wrong or, you know, that kind of thing.
What does the second line mean to you?
5 total samples, 3 controls, 1 NTC.
So imagine that's a 85. It's
I was
missing an
going to say,
It's missing an 8.
that's a good question. Am I missing something? Because there's a 96 sample. Yeah. I like having that there because especially during initial setup, it can remind you what all you need to be loading in those tubes. And just, yeah, as a extra reminder of the fact that you're doing the 96 instead of the 24 or the 48, so you're going to need to have more carriers, more components, that kind of thing, more tips. So, yeah, I like the reminder of what I'm doing at different points, yes.
You know how on this screen you have to remove positive controls?
Yes.
Right here? Would you want this batch information section to reflect the number of whatever there is currently on the deck, or just in total there were historically?
Oh, you mean so here it would say 85 total, 3 controls, 1 NTC, and here then it would say 85 totals, 1 NTC?
Yeah.
No. Keep the fact that there were 3 controls in there because your plate setup is going to have all 96 in there. I wouldn't want to think I should see 3 empty wells and not see them. Yeah, the whole plate setup would be important.
Okay, as far as satisfaction goes, with the current design for completing the task that you just performed, 1 through 7.
Satisfied. Yes, 6.
Okay. And then for ease of use, how easy or difficult was it to accomplish the task?
Easy. 6.
What are your overall thoughts about loading the plate and tip carriers based on the designs that we have? Just overall.
No, overall, I think it's good. It does what it needs to do very clearly. Again, the color coding and the graphic setup, that's really nice, and I think it is clear because everything is out. You can make the deck look exactly like you see it here. So that's a good check. When you're loading, the little happy scanner guy is still scanning as it loads, right? So if I had not noticed that I'd put the tube rack in the right place, even though I wouldn't have because it would have stayed there the whole time, but it will let you know at that point without aborting anything. So it'll give you a chance to kick back out and fix for those guys at least. Cool.
Yeah.
Nope, that's fine then, yep.
And then loading the consumables, any other thoughts on loading the consumables based on the designs?
I mean, if these are all coming sort of pre-filled and you're just doing ethanol into sort of reagent reservoirs, then that's very nice and straightforward. Again, the remember to unseal your plates warning popping up when you hit load will be awesome. And remember, and as a separate reminder, not just unsealing your plates, but to take your seal off your centrifuge plate before you put it on.
Sorry to go back here, but controls and MTC aren't technically samples. So
Right.
What's like a better way to categorize all 3 of them in one bucket?
Oh, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought that a distinction needed to be made in that context.
Is that okay like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's okay like that. At this point, when I think of sample, when I'm actually running the assay, I'm just thinking of tube with stuff in it, right? Thing that I have to interact with, as opposed to sample for analysis sake versus a control.
Yeah.
I think calling them samples in this context is fine. Yeah.
Okay.
That's totally the question that someone would get totally pissed off about, though. I can definitely see some people just being like, that's not a sample, actually. So, yeah. Yeah. Just as one of those things that it will get under certain people's skin, no doubt.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Yeah, it's good for us to have a number, though, of how many do and how many don't, and we can kind of balance what's...
Yeah, not a thing I probably even
That's
would
right.
have noticed.
Got it.
Yep.
Any other thoughts on the overall design to the screen? Anything else you could add?
No, I think I like the things that are on there. Yeah.
Okay. Anything you would change?
I don't love all the colors. I'm going to be honest. I think some of them are a little bit harsh, but color choice is color choice, not
Oh,
enough.
okay.
Yeah.
Which colors are you not liking?
I hate to say the pumpkin orange one is the one I don't like in there
Oh,
as
really?
much. But,
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, that's.
but I'm pretty sure that one's staying. So,
Right off of Grand Central Illumina.
yeah, exactly. No, I mean they're very distinct from one another. They contrast well. You're not going to mix any of them up. So I think that's the main portion.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be great if they were all like harmonious blues that went together or something, but then you're going to mix something up.
Yeah.
So,
Got it. Okay. Do you have any other questions, Jessica? Well, we're done then.
okay. Cool.
Got all three of them done. Thank you.
Nice. Yeah. No, this is
Thanks
fun.
again for your help. We really
No,
appreciate it. Nice
no
to meet you.
problem.
Sure we'll
Nice
see
to meet you
you
too.
again soon. We have
Oh
your,
yeah. No,
we
this
have
is
your
very
number
fun
now,
to.
and so
Yeah.
just
I like
be
to come and play with
ready.
things.
We're gonna
No,
be a
this
hold
is
of
really
you.
cool to see, guys. I think this is going to be a nice interaction for people to have, and I think it will be far more calming than the current software that is
Good. That's
involved
what
with
we
the
want.
Hamiltons. Yeah.
That's what we want. Great.
Yeah.